Is Hamagiri here? So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter number 90, Text number 18. No? 90. 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kalcharan, can you bring from the book table one Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? Tvam lakshamana bhalavatasi grihita indo. Tvam lakshamana balavatasi grihita indo. Srinastamo nanijaditi dibi shinoshi. Srinastamo nanijaditi dibi shinoshi. Katchin mukunda gaditani yata vayam tvam. Katchin mukunda gaditani yata vayam tvam. Vishmityavo stad gita gir upalakshase naha. Vishmityavo stad gita gir upalakshase naha. Tvam lakshamana balavata sigrahita indo. Shinashtamona nijaditidbi shinoshi. Katchin mukunda gatitani yatavayam tvam. Vishmityavosta gitagir upalakshase naha. Tvam lakshamana balavata sigrahita indo. Shinastamona nijaditi dibi shinoshi. Katchin mukunda gaditani yatavayam tvam. Vishmityavosta gitagir upalakshase naha. Tvam lakshamana balavatasi grahita indo. Shinastamona nijaditi dibi shinoshi. Katchin makunda gatitani yatavayam tvam. Gita-girupa lakshasena. Tam lakshamana balavatasi gahita indo. Krishnastamo najatiti vikdishanoshi. Kachin mukunda gatitani yatavayam tvam. Vishmritya bosadikadir dalakshasena. Tvam lakshamana bhalavata sikrihita indo. Krishnastamo nanijaditi bhinishtinoshi. Vishmrita bosatita girupa lakshanasa. Ladies. Yatavayam tvam. Vishmrita bosatita lakshanesha. Tvam, you. Yakshmana, by consumption. Balavata, powerful. Asi, are. Gahitaha, seized. Indo, O moon. Shinaha, emaciated. Tamaha, darkness. Na, not. Nija, your. Dititibi, with the rays. Shinoshi, you destroy. Kachchit, weather. Mukunda gatitani, the statements made by Mukunda. Yata, like. Vayam, us. Tvam, you. Vishmritya, forgetting. Boho, dear one. Satagita, stunned. Gihi, whose speech. Upalakshase, you appear. Naha, to us. Translation. My dear moon, having contracted a severe case of tuberculosis, you have become so emaciated that you fail to dispel the darkness with your rays? Or is it that you appeared dumbstruck because, like us, you cannot remember the encouraging promises Mukunda once made to you? Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kuroti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Gadim Yat Kripa Taraham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramanandamaravam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. So, this verse particularly describes the conversation the queens of Dwarka are having with various things that they see in nature. In this verse, they're talking with the moon, okay? So, this type of symptom of pure devotional service is described like mada, or like a madness. The devotee becomes so absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and attachment to Krishna that they begin speaking like this. So this is a very, very elevated position in devotional service. It's never to be imitated, and it derives from a situation that is known as vipralamba. That is described in the Nectar of Devotion, if I can just find it. One second. Conjugal love. So we're talking about the queens and their relationship with Krishna, and that is through conjugal love. So generally we think of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, but here we also see the queens in Dwarka. They're situated in this vipralamba, this attachment to the Supreme Lord. So conjugal love, this is from the Nectar of Devotion, the chapter Devotional Service in Conjugal Love. Conjugal love is divided in two portions: the vipralamba, or conjugal love in separation, and sambhoga, or conjugal love in direct contact. The vipralamba separation has three divisions, known as purvarag, or preliminary attraction; 2, mana, or seeming anger; and 3, pravasa, or separation by distance. When the lover and the beloved have a direct, distinct feeling of not meeting each other, this stage is called purvarag, or preliminary attraction. In Padyavali, Radharani told her companion, "My dear friend, I was just going to the bank of the Yamuna, and all of a sudden a very nice boy whose complexion is like a dark blue cloud became visible in front of my eyes. He glanced over me in a way that I cannot describe. But since this has occurred, I'm sorry that I can no longer engage my mind in the duties of my household affairs." This is an instance of preliminary attraction for Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 53rd chapter, verse 2, Krishna told the messenger Brahman, who came from Rukmini, "My dear Brahman, just like Rukmini, I cannot sleep at night, and my mind is always fixed on her. I know that her brother Rukmi is against me, and that due to his persuasion, my marriage with her has been canceled." This is another instance of preliminary attraction. As far as man, or anger, is concerned, there is the following incident in the Gita Govinda. When Srimati Radharani saw Krishna enjoying himself in the company of several other gopis, she became a little jealous because of her special prestige of being dimmed. Therefore, she immediately left the scene and took shelter in a nice flower bush where the black drones were humming. Then, hiding herself behind the creepers, she began to express her sorrow to one of her consorts. This is an instance of seeming disagreement. An example of pravasa, or being out of contact because of living in a distant place, is given in the Padyavali as follows. Since the auspicious day when Krishna left for Mathura, Srimati Radharani has been pressing her head on her hands, and constantly shedding tears. Her face is always wet now, and therefore there was no chance of her sleeping even for a moment. When the face becomes wet, the sleeping tendency is immediately removed. So when Radharani was always weeping for Krishna because of his separation, there was no chance of her getting any sleep for herself. In the Prahlada Samhita, Uddhava says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, panic-stricken due to being pierced by the arrows of Cupid, is always thinking of you, the gopis, and he's not even accepting his regular lunch, nor is he getting proper rest. When the lover and the beloved come together and enjoy one another by direct contact, this stage is called Sambhog. There is a statement in Padyavali as follows: Krishna embraced Srimad Radharani in such an expert manner that he appeared to be celebrating the dancing ceremony of the peacocks. Srila Rupa Goswami thus ends the fifth wave of the ocean of nectar devotion. He offers his respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears as Gopal, the eternal form of the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta summary study of the third division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in the matter of the 5 primary relationships with Krishna. So this particular pastime of the queens in Dwarka, they're in this mood of Vipralamba, Pravas, which means that Krishna is not before them, and they're experiencing that separation from Krishna. And in that, they're describing various things that they see in relationship to Krishna in kind of a mad moment. Radharani also experienced this when Uddhava came to deliver the message of Krishna. She began to speak to the bumblebee, and she was saying that, imagining that the bumblebee was the messenger, and she was saying, you're the unreliable servant of an unreliable master. And the next moment, that when the bumblebee left, she became worried that the bumblebee would go and tell Krishna about her being upset. So in this way, the pastimes of the Lord with his intimate devotees in Vrindavan are on a very high level of devotional service. And in order to understand them, one has to be very progressive in his devotional service and one's devotional service, and understand things step by step. If one who is having material desires tries to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, then what will happen is that there will be sahajaism. In other words, we'll take things very cheaply. So in order not to have our devotional service stunted in that way, we have to learn gradually the mood of the various devotees that have relationship with Krishna. Understand Krishna through the various devotees. Dhruva had a particular relationship. Prahlad had a different relationship, and a particular kind of relationship with the Supreme Lord. So all of these relationships are based on prem, or love of Godhead, but they have their variegatedness. Even in the prayers of Queen Kunti, she also has a particular relationship with Krishna, as she was Krishna's aunt, but then she realized that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and not just that she had this material relationship of being his aunt, but that he was the Supreme Lord. And in her prayers, she describes her understanding of Krishna, okay? But she also mentions those who have a different relationship. you could say, a sweeter relationship than even she had as Krishna's aunt, but realizing that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And during her prayers, Queen Kunti mentions Yashoda Mai, right? And she mentions the gopis, right? So she's not on that level of relationship with Krishna, right? She understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her prayers. Namaste Purusham Tvadyam Ishvaram Prakrite Padam Lakshang Sarvabhutanam Antarvahrivastitam. That Krishna is the Supreme Person. And He's created this whole material universe. She understood Krishna's position in that way. And the ordinary persons, Sarvabhutanam, they can't understand Him, right? And she goes on to explain why, because this material nature, Maya Javanik Akshanam Agyad Hokchijamaviyam, is like a curtain that covers his real identity, right? And he acts just like an actor, right? Just like an actor. So in the purport, Prabhupada said, if the son of a man goes to a drama and his father has a costume and he's playing a certain part, right? His son may not even recognize him, right? So the material conditioned living entities, they're like that, right? Krishna comes to the material world to display his pastimes, but not everyone can understand who Krishna is, right? Certainly the conditioned souls will mistake him as an ordinary person. And even the devotees have different relationships with Krishna according to their mood as they're surrendered unto Krishna. But Krishna plays the part perfectly with everyone, right? As Queen Kunti says, just like an actor. You know, when an actor, there's some actors, they get so much into the part that they're playing, they actually imagine that they've become that person, right? Some actors, not all, really good actors. If an actor is going to win the, what do they call it? The Oscar, right? Then they have to really be absorbed in the part, right? And some actors are so much absorbed in the part that they don't come out of the part until the film is over, until the film's released. So that gives us some idea. Krishna's, you know, he's not anyone's son, but he plays the part so perfectly that Yashoda thinks he's his son, isn't it? He becomes so dependent on the relationship that he has with Yashoda Mai as his mother. She's thinking that if she doesn't feed him, he'll die, right? Now the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Atmarama. He doesn't require anything, right? But what he enjoys the most is the love of his devotees. So because he's so attached to his devotees, even though he creates this material universe, right? Still he enters into the universe to interact with his devotees and to perform pastimes so that his devotees can think of him in various ways. And he performs various wonderful pastimes in various incarnations, right? Just for the pleasure of his devotees. So one of those devotees who has another unique relationship with Krishna, and by the way, we all have this unique relationship with Krishna, right? It's all individualistic, right? We have our own relationship with Krishna. Of course, now that we're in the conditioned stage, that relationship is not very much developed And what the spiritual master does is try to give sambandha gyan, a knowledge of Krishna, so that we understand why we want to establish that relationship with Krishna. We already have in the material world so many different relationships. We have a father, we have a mother, we have a friend, we have a brother, we have so many different relationships in this material world. And those relationships appear so real. But actually, those relationships are false in the sense, not that they don't exist, but they do exist, but they're only temporary. It's described in Shastra that a wise person knows that we come together in these relationships just like two sticks in the river. Due to the waves of the river, two sticks come together and they're traveling together according to the current of the river. But due to the influence of time, again, they're separated. Right? So all the relationships in this material world are like that. Right? Due to the influence of time, they won't be there after a while. Right? But the relationship with Krishna is eternal. In the spiritual world, that relation is known as Chinmay Ras, the servant and the served. We're the servant and Krishna is the served. But when the living entity, due to misuse of his minute independence, he wants to enjoy separately from Krishna, or he thinks, well, Krishna's enjoying, why shouldn't I enjoy? So then that mentality brings him here to the material world. Right? And so many things happen to the living entity due to coming in contact with the three modes of material nature. He gets a particular type of body, sometimes as a hog, sometimes as a dog or a cat. And after many, many different bodies, the living entity gets a human form. So in human form of life, the unique position of the living entity in the human form is that they have the human form gives the living entity sufficient intelligence so that he can understand more about his relationship with God. And that's what the spiritual master does. He gives sambandha gyan. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is set up in such a way that while studying Srimad Bhagavatam, canto by canto, one goes through a purification, one goes through a understanding of one's relationship with the Supreme Lord, so that one can actually understand the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is known as the Sunam Bonam. Okay? So, like I said, each devotee has a unique relationship, and these queens in Dwarka, which we're reading about, Krishna, he deals with them as the husband, right? And, generally speaking, the husband kind of does whatever the wife says, and Krishna also plays that role. Right? One of the queens wanted a parijat flower, so Krishna went to heavenly planets and got her not just a flower, but the whole tree. Right? And in that way, the queen is thinking, oh, my husband, he's so attached to me. He's more attached to me than anyone else. Right? But the thing is that Krishna is so expert, all his queens, which were 16,108 queens, they were all thinking the same thing, that Krishna is so attached to me. Whether it was Rukmini or Satyabhama or so many others. Right? That's because Krishna plays his role so perfectly, so perfectly. Again, we have to understand, he's Atmarama. He's not attached to anything. He's perfectly self-satisfied. But what he does become controlled by is the love of his devotees. Right? So Bhishma Dev, he had a particular kind of relationship. And there's a part of the Bhagavatam known as the Bhishma Stotram. That's in the 9th canto. It's in the 1st canto, chapter 9, text 32 to 42. So what I thought is that this unique kind of relationship that Bhishma has, it also encapsulates Sambandha Gyan. Who is Krishna? Why should we endeavor to develop our relationship with Krishna? So I thought I'd read these verses from Bhishma Stotram, if that's all right with everybody. Is it okay? All right, good. Bhishma said, so here's the scene. The battle of Kurukshetra is over, right? And Yudhishthira is now in the position of the throne, right? Most everybody on the battlefield died in the battle. Bhishma was pierced by so many arrows from Arjun's bow. And he's lying on this bed of arrows, about to leave this world. Yudhishthira is feeling very bad because he feels that so many persons were killed so that he could get the throne, right? And so they go to the bank of the Ganges, where Bhishma is lying, about to leave this world, right? And Bhishma Dev is anticipating the arrival of Lord Krishna. He's very much looking forward to Lord Krishna arriving. So at this point in the Bhagavatam, the Pandavas have come, Lord Krishna has come, and Bhishma Dev, the grandsire of the Pandavas, begins these verses. Okay. Bhishma Dev said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending on the material world, although from him only the material world is created. Okay. So Bhishma, like Queen Kunti, understands Krishna's position. When Krishna manifested his pastimes, not everyone understood who Krishna was, right? But Bhishma understood who Krishna was, the Supreme Lord. And the process of devotional service is set up in such a way that that brings us to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's 64 items in devotional service. There's 5 main items in devotional service: chanting the holy name, worshiping the deity, residing in a sacred place, associating with the devotees, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So by practicing these panchanga of devotional service, one will gradually understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? If Krishna were to walk in the door right now, right, we wouldn't understand who he was, right? Just as we don't understand that the deity is God. Inasmuch as we understand that the deity is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Inasmuch as, that much we would understand that if Krishna walked in the door right now, that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So, we're performing sadhana bhakti, regulated devotional service, right? Worshipping the deity in the temple, right? Performing personal activities, right? So that a purification of the heart takes place. That's what we're doing. As the heart becomes purified, we understand that Krishna, in the form of his archa vigraha, is a person. Right? And there's many instances how Krishna and his archa vigraha interacted with his devotees. And one of them is from the pastime of the Lord as Sakshi Gopal. Right? You know the story, how the Brahmin, right, was traveling with an older Brahmin, and he was taking nice care of him, right? In Vrindavan on Prikrama. Vrindavan Prikrama is a difficult thing to do, especially for an old person, right? So this Brahmin was taking nice care. And that old Brahmin was so excited that he got to go on Prikrama in Vrindavan and was taken care of so nicely by this young Brahmin. He said, I'm going to give you my daughter in marriage. So the young Brahmin said, well, you know, I'm a very poor person and you're from a wealthy family. I don't think it work out. And he said, no, no, no. And he was in front of the Gopal deity. I promise in front of the Gopal deity that I'm going to give you my daughter in marriage. Right? That was the idea. So, you know, Prikrama got over, the old Brahmin went home, and the other Brahmin went his way. Right? And when the old Brahmin told his family members, they became very upset with their father for promising to give the daughter, their sister, in marriage when he's just a poor Brahmin. Right? And then the old Brahmin was in dilemma, what to do. He had given a promise, right? So when the Brahmin came, just to help the old Brahmin keep his promise, and he got driven away by the son of the old Brahmin. The son said, if Gopal is the witness, let him come here and bear witness. So the young Brahmin, having great faith in the Lord, and the deity being non-different from the Lord, went before the Gopal and said, look it, that old Brahmin promised, but he's not able to keep his promise unless you come and bear witness. Right? So the Gopal deity spoke to him and said, but how can I go there? I'm here, I'm a deity, how can I go there? And the young Brahmin said, well, if you can talk to me, you can certainly come with me also. Right? So then the Gopal deity agreed. Right? And he followed the Brahmin and went all the way to the village. And just outside the village, he stopped. And then the villagers came and saw that the deity had actually come all the way from Vrindavan. So this is one example, and there are so many examples of the Lord reciprocating with the devotee who has realization that the deity is non-different from the Supreme Lord. Right? There was, what was his name? Mukunda. Mukunda had great faith. He was a small boy. His father's name, what was his father's name? I forget now. It'll come to me. Ghosh, huh? Raghunandan, Mukunda, yeah. Raghunandan was a son. But Mahaprabhu asked Mukunda, his father, Mukunda, are you the father or is Mukunda the father? Who's the father? And Raghunandan, Mukunda Ghosh said, no, Raghunandan's the father. Right? Why? because the boy had such great faith in the deity that whatever the boy was offering, the deity was actually eating. Right? So like that, that place is in Agardweep, in Navadweep Dham. You can go and still see the Gopinath deity. It's there. Agardweep. Agardweep. Just after Gaur Purnima, there's a big festival that happens, and that is the Shrad Day, because that deity also did the Shrad ceremony for Mukunda. So on that day, lakhs of people come to Agardweep and have darshan of Gopinath. It's a nice place. So anyway, there are many instances of that. But in order to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sufficient sambandha gyan is required. And that we get from these prayers of the great devotees. Certainly Bhishma Deva is one of the great devotees, as one of the 12 Mahajans. So then he says, on the battlefield where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised by the hooves of the horses. And because of his labor, beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Lord Krishna. So Bhishma's particular relationship with Krishna was this one of chivalry. Right? And Krishna had given a promise that he wouldn't fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. Right? But Bhishma was accused by Duryodhana that you have strong affection for the Pandavas. That's why you're not finishing them. Right? So anyway, Bhishma said, okay, then I'll fight in such a way that if Krishna doesn't break his promise to enter into the battle, then Arjuna will die. Right? So this relationship that he had with Krishna of chivalry and Kshatriya spirit, Krishna had to get down, pick up his weapon was a wheel from the chariot, and he rushed towards Bhishma. And Bhishma was firing arrows. Even Krishna was wounded, right? But Krishna was seeing those arrows as flower offerings, right? It was the relationship that he had with Bhishma. He could finish Bhishma in a second, right? But Bhishma was his devotee, and he entered into this relationship. So again, each one of us has this unique relationship. It's not developed, so we don't know what it is. And that's why we're performing devotional service. You can't prematurely, enter in that relationship. A purification has to take place, right? That purification is performing the Panch Anga, hearing Bhagavatam, chanting the holy name, worshiping the deity in the temple, right? Those who are fortunate enough to have Brahminical initiation, they can enter into do sevas. But even if you don't have Brahminical initiation, you can perform services. Right? You can sweep the temple, you can clean the temple. One shouldn't think, oh, a high service is putting the garland on the deity, that's high service. Making the garlands is high service. And sweeping the temple is low service. No, that's a foolishness. Right? Krishna doesn't see like that. Why should we see like that? Huh? Krishna sees even a caste seva in Vrindavan the same as Radharani's seva. It's his devotee that's interacting with him, and therefore he appreciates it. So rendering these different types of devotional service, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, worshiping the deity, chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, This is bringing us to awaken our individual relationship with Krishna. Krishna is known as Rasaraj. So is Rupa Goswami, but Krishna's name is also Rasaraj because he is expert in relishing all the different relationships. But there's one relationship he's missing right now, and that's mine. Because I've covered over that relationship, right? I haven't understood what that relationship is due to being in the material world for so many lifetimes. So many lifetimes. Sometime as a cat, sometime as a dog, as a buffalo, as a tree. Right? Now I've come to this human form of life, and in this human form of life, if one has the good fortune to come in contact with the pure devotee of the Lord, that lost relationship with Krishna can be revived. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, due to his causeless mercy, he wants the living entities. He's calling out to the Jeev Jago, wake up. We're actually sleeping, we're in a dream. Right? At nighttime we dream that we're here and we're there. And when we wake up in the morning we think, wow, where was I? Oh yeah, that was just a dream. But this is also a dream. This is also one big dream that's going on. This is a daydream. I'm this, I'm Indian, I'm Tamil, I'm Gujarati, I'm American. It's a big dream that's going on. So Lord Chaitanya's come, wake up. You're the eternal servant of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, as the representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has given us this International Society for Krishna Consciousness just specifically so that we can reawaken our relationship with Krishna. But in order to do that, we have to take up the mission of Lord Chaitanya. If you want the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who's ready to help us to reestablish our relationship, then we have to take up his mission. And his mission is that all the conditioned souls, wherever you go, whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna. Give them Krishna. And what's the best way to give people Krishna? What's the best way to preach to people about Krishna consciousness? Is to give them the best preacher, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in the form of his transcendental literatures. Right? So Srila Prabhupada, he said one time, I am whipping them. Distribute books, distribute books, distribute books. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada knew that that was the best way for us to make advancement. To take up that responsibility of trying to help people in their Krishna consciousness by giving them transcendental literatures. One time Srila Prabhupada said, if someone takes a book and gives a donation, their material life is mortally wounded. Right? What does it mean, a mortal wound? You know, if you're in the battle, you get shot in the arm, you may not necessarily die. Right? But in the old days, if you got shot in the stomach, you were dead. It's over, right? That's called a mortal wound. You're shot so badly that you're not going to make it, okay? So when you give somebody a book and you take a donation for them, their materialistic life, it's over, right? It's just a matter of time. They're also going to come to the same position that you are, that we are right now, of sitting before the deity in the Srimad Bhagavatam class and trying to stay awake. Hare Krishna. So that they can come to the next level of understanding what their eternal relationship with Krishna is. Engaging in the Sankirtan is so important for the devotees or the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he takes special care of them, right? Prabhupada said somewhere that even if you're not able to think of Krishna at the time of death, if you've engaged in the Sankirtan movement, if you've given it your all in all to spread the Sankirtan movement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will forcefully enter into your mind and you will think of him. And he'll take you back to Godhead. So what a special opportunity. The yogis are meditating for 60,000 years, right? But here, an even more fortunate opportunity is there to get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by engaging in the Sankirtan movement, but we're sleeping in the Bhagavatam. What can we do? We have no attraction. So, by reading these Bhagavatam regularly, studying these verses of the great acharyas, mahajans, gradually our attraction to Krishna can increase, and we can hope to revive our lost relationship with Lord Krishna and enter into the pastimes in Goloka. It can't be forced, it's a gradual process, and part of the process is being part of the Sankirtan movement. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? The microphone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. How to understand that Krishna is a person, so he is a complete one person, and then he designed or made this universe out of him, but still he is complete. He is the one. So, because now some part has come out from him as a universe.
But did it go out? Where did it go out to? It's still part of him. This universe is still part of Krishna. It's Krishna's energy. When the rays of the sun come out for the sun, they're still part of the sun. The sun rays. Don't you say, oh, the sun's in the room today. Why is the sun in the room? Why? Because the energy of the sun and the sun are one and the same. And at the same time, they're different. Krishna and his energies are inconceivably, simultaneously one and different. Although the sun rays come in your room and you say that, close the curtain, there's suns in the room. Well, you're talking about the energy of the sun rays. The sun globe is not in your room, but at the same time, the sun's in your room by its energy. So this material energy never becomes separated from Krishna. It's his energy. But at the same time, although this is his manifestation, he's in Goloka. And he's playing with his cowherd boyfriends. And they're jumping on his back because he lost the game. Simultaneous. He's herding the cows, interacting with Mother Yashoda. And at the same time, this whole manifestation is going on as his energy. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suitesha charachanam. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this very clear and added understanding. Other acharyas were emphasizing the difference, right? But he emphasized simultaneously one and different. It's inconceivable, but you can understand it if you're a devotee. It's okay?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments? Yes?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. This book distribution marathon is coming now.
Really?
So, if you can share some of the experiences of your Radha Damodar bus party, would be.
Well, there's so many experiences. There's a nice book that is written by Vijay Prabhu. It's called The Treasures of the Brihat Mridanga. How many people have read that? Vijay Das. He was the minister of book distribution for many, many years, and he wrote a book about his experience called The Treasures of the Brihat Mridanga. Who's read it? One, Nartaki Gopal Mataji, right? An old book distributor. Or, I'm not saying old, I'm saying eternal book distributor. Nobody else has read it? My goodness. 50% of your life is wasted. You got to read that book. It's absolutely enthralling. Let me tell you one story. It was in Russia, okay? There was a thief. He broke into the house, right? The thief is in the house. Then he heard someone at the door, and he thought, jump out the window because he'll get caught. So just before he jumped out the window, he thought, I've come all the way here, he saw something on the table, the lamp table, and he grabbed it and jumped out the window so he wouldn't get caught. And when he got back home, what it was Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gita in Russian. And his wife chastised him. We don't have anything, and you were supposed to get something, and all you brought back was this book. She got on his case, right? But then she began to read the book, and she began to understand about Krishna consciousness. Right? She told him that I think there's a center where they have these books, and we maybe can find out more about it. So they went to the temple in Russia, right? And they started going regularly, and they were taking prasadam, right? And then, as they learned more about Krishna consciousness, the devotee said, would you like to go out and distribute books? And they agreed, and they both became really good book distributors. And here, they stole the book, and now they're on the street distributing the books to so many people. So like that, there are many wonderful pastimes in Vijay's book. But not only that, in the first few chapters, he systematically takes you through what Srila Prabhupada and why Srila Prabhupada emphasized book distribution from his books. So it's a very good book. It's called The Treasures of the Brihat Mridanga by Vijay Das, and I highly recommend it to everyone. Get your copy and read it. That's the plug. Any other questions? No, Hanuman.
Hare Krishna, late. जब अर्जुन और कृष्ण पितामह भीष्म का युद्ध हो रहा था, अर्जुन पराजित हुए और अर्जुन की रक्षा करने के लिए भगवान कृष्ण हाथ में रथ का पहिया लेकर दौड़े भीष्म को मारने के लिए। तो पितामह भीष्म अपना शस्त्र छोड़ दिए और समर्पित हुए, बोले प्रभु के हाथ से मेरा उद्धार होगा तो जीवन सफल होगा। लेकिन अर्जुन नीचे उतरा रथ से, जल्दी से दौड़ के प्रभु का जांघा में पकड़े और बोले प्रभु आपको हथियार उठाने की जरूरत नहीं है, मैं इसके बाद में अच्छा युद्ध करूंगा और पितामह भीष्म को पराजित करूंगा। तो प्रभु की कृपा से अर्जुन भी बच गए और पितामह भीष्म दोनों भी बच गए, जबकि दोनों कृष्ण के भक्त हैं। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. And Bhishma, he was remembering all these things on the bed of arrows, and now that same Krishna had come before him. So he was extremely, he realized he wanted to give up everything else now. He was a staunch follower of Dharma, and his particular Varna, which was a Kshatriya. He was always instructing his nephews about the Kshatriya Dharma, what their responsibility was as a Kshatriya, very staunchly. But now that he was leaving his body, now that Krishna had come before him, he wanted to give up all that, right? Let it go. Right? So we're learning in devotional service how to let things, Bhishma performed his duty, but he realized the ultimate goal was that we're none of these, our real duty is to think of Krishna at the time of death. So whatever we're doing is practice to bring us to that point that we won't falter. We will think of Krishna, and there's so many shlokas that are actually in Bhagavad-gita that remind us of what the purpose is, that whatever you think of at the time of death, that you would attain. Right? So we're practicing now devotional service, and Bhishma is such a nice example in this pastime that Krishna has come before him and he doesn't want to think of anything else except for Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much, very wonderful class. So I just want to know that in what unique relationship of Bhishma Dev with Krishna?
Pardon?
In what unique relationship with of Bhishma with Krishna?
So you read these verses, 32, first canto, chapter 9, 32 for 42, and then we'll talk. Okay? 32 to 42, chapter 9, first canto. Then we'll talk. Okay? Hare Krishna. Yes? In the back.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, while we are doing our duties, say like while we are driving or doing some accounting work and all kind of things, worldly things, means the activity needs our 100% attention. So at that time, because 10 hours we are working, then how can, while performing the duties, how can we be in Krishna consciousness? Because we can't divert attention, Prabhuji.
Good question, very good question. So the point is that why are you doing accounting? Why do you go to the office? I suppose you're an accountant, right?
No, Prabhuji, I'm businessman, Prabhuji. So lot of accounting, then sales and purchasing, all the activities needs to be done.
And you need to focus, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
But there's a reason why you do that. We earn money so we can maintain our family. So the real reason that we're doing that is for our family. And why? Because we love our family members. Is it not?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So although you're doing that, and you have to be absorbed in order to do it properly, still you understand who you're doing it for. It's for the people that you love. So when you have developed love for Krishna, we do things for the pleasure of Krishna. And in that way, because we're doing it for Krishna, we'll think of Krishna. Even though you're focused. Arjuna certainly had to focus when he was killing people on the battle of Kurukshetra, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
But he was doing it for Krishna. So by that activity that he was doing on Krishna's order, for Krishna's pleasure, it was the same as thinking of Krishna. And if you actually do things for the pleasure of Krishna, you will think of Krishna. You will think of Krishna. When they're cooking in the deity kitchen, right? You know, in the outside kitchen, they taste it to see if there's enough salt, right? But in the deity kitchen, you don't do that. Nobody tastes it before Krishna. So you have to give more attention, right? How much salt, whether you put salt, whether you didn't put salt. But why is that attention there? Because it's offered to Krishna. It's going to go to Krishna. So even though the cook is focused on what he's doing, he knows the purpose, because this is going to go to Krishna. This is going to be offered to Krishna. So he or she is very attentive to what they're doing. It's a matter of who you're doing it for. If you're actually doing it for Krishna, even though you're focused on that activity, you will think of Krishna. It takes intention and it takes purpose. Gradually, by being guided by devotees how to do things for Krishna, even while you're doing a very complicated thing, you know that it's for Krishna. When we go out and distribute books, you know, I can sell, you know, Times of India newspapers, right? I can maybe sell more Times of India newspapers, right? But no, I'm selling Krishna book. Why? Because the book is about Krishna, right? So while I'm selling that Krishna book, although the interaction of salesmanship may be the same, I know it's for Krishna. It's Krishna's book. It's Srila Prabhupada's book. So in that way, I'm thinking of Krishna. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.